Aum Shmashana Nilaya Sukshma Shmashanasto Maheshwaraha Lokakarta Mrigapatir Maharkarta Mahaushadhi.
Namaste. I always get these waves of bliss when I start these videos and at the end too. You know, people ask me sometimes, why are you making video after video after video on these ancient prayers that nobody believes in anymore and nobody chants or nobody studies? Well, if you don't study them or you don't chant them, you're losing out. You want to know why I'm so blissful? It's precisely because I study and chant these ancient prayers, these mantras full of potencies of the holy names. And now, God has thousands and millions of names, and they are all equally potent. They just reveal different facets or different aspects, different qualities and activities of the Lord in different pastimes. So this shloka is no exception. It starts out kind of ominously. Shmashana Nilaya. He is inhabiting cremation grounds. Now, why is that? Why is God and death associated so closely that even his names, Shmashana Nilaya, Shmashanasto, he lives, he stays, sthana, he stands in the cremation grounds, Shmashana. And this is ancient. This is going way, way back, this association of God and death. Well, why is it? It's because at the time of death of a loved one, for a few moments or a few hours maybe, a couple of days, we come in contact directly with mortality, with the certainty that our lives will also end. It's inescapable. Nobody gets out of here alive. And the reason is that this world is born, it is created, and everything in it is created or fabricated, constructed at a certain point of time. And what goes up must come down. Whatever has been created will also be uncreated. That's simply the law of karma. Everything has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you make an effort to create something, that same effort will lead to its eventual discreation, uncreation, or whatever you want to call it, destruction in due course. So we normally, to get through the day, have to ignore this and behave as if the body and the relationships based on the body are eternal, permanent, lasting, but they're not. They're not, Last night, I had a long, deep meditation on this subject. And at first, I was lamenting because in my life, I never found a compatible partner. And I was thinking, my life could have been so much happier. But then I started looking at that happiness. And isn't that based on the premise or the assumption that this is permanent? That if we find a relationship that works, we can stay in it as long as we like? Don't we think like that? I mean, we don't think explicitly, but implicitly. We assume that it's like that. We assume that life goes on more or less the way it's been going, and that nothing is really going to change. But it is. We get older, the body changes, the mind changes, our preferences and desires change, our activities change. I mean, so many things. And, just talk to any therapist or, read Dear Abby or any of those columns, about relationships and morality and stuff. People's relationships don't work. We're too different. We're too individualistic. This whole idea of marriage being a permanent or lifelong relationship, this is fairly recent in human society. This is only in the last 5,000 to 10,000 years. Before that, people just lived in tribes, The tribe was the family, not the individual couple. The nuclear family is an invention of Christianity and the other Abrahamic religions. But Abrahamic means not Brahman. See? In other words, duality. That God and the individual soul both exists eternally as separate individuals. But actually, we know from Vedic sources this is not true. And that the ultimate resolution of all the problems and all suffering is when we merge with God in moksha. But a funny thing happened on the way to heaven. Even after moksha, you can still maintain individuality. You can still have an identity. But now, after moksha, our primary relationship is not with another jiva, not with another individual, but with God. So this is the key. This is the thing that throws everyone off the track. They think that monism is like oneness, right? And that when you get moksha, everything just merges into this white light and that's the end of everything. But no. That is one level of consciousness. That is Brahman consciousness. And we all have that as our root of consciousness and being. But then that gets refracted or reflected in various forms. The forms have different qualities. That's why there are 5 bodies, 5 koshas. The meat body, energy body, mind body, intelligence body, and consciousness body. So even though the Annamaya kosha, the meat body, the food body, dies, the other more subtle bodies continue. And we can live in those bodies in a world that has much, much less difficulty, suffering, ignorance, and temporariness about it that lasts long time and gives us the chance and the facility to develop ourselves until we can realize Brahman. So that's why Shiva hangs out in the cremation grounds. Now, most people in the West have never been to a cremation. In India, it's a normal thing that all the relatives go to the cremation ground. The body is covered with wood or cow dung or some other inflammable materials and set on fire and burns all night until it's reduced to ashes. Maybe a few bones here and there. And then the ashes are scattered, and that's the end of it, right? In other words, we actually participate in the process of destruction of the body once the being has left. In the West, this is all done behind the scenes by professionals, and they charge an tremendous amount of money for it. Very destructive to our relationship with death. It allows us to maintain the fiction that, death is just, something that's not going to happen to me. So actually the Eastern ways are best. The old ways are best. And if we follow them, we get a lot of benefit just from having to confront these actual realities of life. Now, what else? Sukshma, he's subtle. He's not gross. You don't find Shiva walking down the street, swinging a watch on a gold chain. That's not his style. You'll find Shiva in the cremation ground, in the forest, in the caves, in the jungle, on the banks of rivers, in lonely places, in the mountains. I mean, this is where Shiva is to be found. And he's not going to be found out there through the senses. He's going to be found within, through meditation, chanting his names, worship, and so on. Maheshwara. Well, this Maheshwara has come up already several times in these shlokas. So that means it's not an individual holy name, but it's part of a construction. So we have here Shmashana Nilaya Sukshma, Shmashana Sto Maheshwara. So he is sitting in the creation ground in subtle form. And he's standing or staying in the creation ground as the Supreme Lord. He says, through Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he says that all souls enter into me at the time of death. So that's why he's in the cremation grounds, so the souls can enter into him. And not only that, he's subtle. He's not found easily. He is only found through deep introspection. Lokakarta, and then also Mahakarta. He is the creator of the worlds. He is the great maker, the creator. He likes to make things. Isn't it fun? Have you ever done anything like make model planes or model trains or any kind of kit, let's say, of some electronic equipment, or have you ever built your own computer or anything like that? It's very satisfying, very enjoyable to be able to put things together and make them work. So this kind of maker culture is a big thing in today's world, where people are learning how to make stuff just for the pleasure of doing it. I think that's very healthy, because it gives us an insight into the pleasure that God gets by creating this world. I was thinking about that last night. Why does he make this world? And especially, why does he make everything temporary? And maybe that's a topic for another video. But basically, it's because he enjoys it. It's satisfying. It's a great hobby. And then Mrigapati, he likes the deer. He enjoys their company. When he's alone in the wilderness, meditating deeply on Brahman, on himself, the deer come around. They're totally unafraid of him. They come around and they surround him and eat grass and maybe lick his feet and like that, take blessings from him. So he's the friend of the deer, even though sometimes he hunts them or appears to hunt them. He appears in the guise of a hunter, but really he loves them, and they're his favorites in the forest. And then finally, Mahausadhi. Mahausadhi means he is the great medicine. He is the cure for all the afflictions, the sufferings of life, the vicissitudes, the outrageous slings and arrows of fortune. And he makes it so because actually he loves this great drama of salvation, where we get put in a situation where we have to do some sadhana. We have to think of him, worship him, and understand him in order to attain the complete enlightenment. Aum Tat Sat. Aum Shakti Aum. Aum Namah Shivaya.